Hi, and welcome back to Museum at Home. Now today we are exploring the world of Islamic art, art that has decorated the walls of places throughout the entire Islamic world for many centuries. Now we're going to start off by looking at some examples of Islamic art which can be found in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And we're looking at a particular type of art, a type of object that is super popular in Islamic art, and that is tiles. Now, if you go into your kitchen, I bet that you'll come across a few tiles, perhaps behind the oven, shiny tiles that protect the wall. Perhaps there could be tiles in your bathroom or on the floor of your hallway, or perhaps somewhere else in your house, around a fireplace maybe. Now, tiles are really useful objects. They're hard, they're easy to clean, and they can be beautiful, decorated in the most wonderful colours and patterns and shapes. We've used tiles for centuries to decorate our homes, and a lot of the tiles that we have used have been inspired by Islamic tiles, which we can find all over the Islamic world. Now, take a look at this group of tiles. Aren't they bright and colourful? Do you think that they are old or that they are new? Looking at how bright they are, you might think that they are modern tiles, but they're not. These tiles were actually made a very long time ago, all the way back in the 14th century. So that makes them about 600 years old. What exactly can we see in these tiles? Can we see animals? Can we see pictures of anything? Can we see text, words, writing? Or is it something much more simple? Well, we can see shapes, a whole group of coloured shapes. So, what different colours can you spot? How many different colours? Well, there are two, turquoise and purple. And what types of shape? Well, there are stars with 6 points and hexagons, shapes with 6 sides. And they all fit together perfectly. We call this interlocking. All the different parts interlock together. They lock into place next to each other. Another even fancier word for this is tessellate, and that's a word that reminds us a little bit of the idea of mosaics and tesserae that we heard about earlier on in an episode about the ancient Romans. But something that's really obvious is that these tiles are shiny. Can you see the way that the light bounces off the tiles? Well, this is because they are glazed. But what does glazed mean? Well, tiles tend to be made out of ceramic, a hard material often made from clay and minerals from the ground. Now, once the tile has been shaped into the shape that the artist wants, and painted as well, to top the tile, you add a substance and then bake it in extremely hot conditions. And that gives it a shiny glaze on the top. Other tile makers would keep the tile plain and add a coloured glaze rather than painting it. Either way, with a glaze, your tile would have a lovely shiny top. So what would tiles like this have been used to decorate? Well, in the Islamic world, they can be found absolutely everywhere. 600 years ago, tiles covered the walls of palaces, of mosques where people would worship, sites where people were buried. Tiles were absolutely everywhere. Now, take a look at this photograph. It is a picture of Topkapi Palace in Istanbul in Turkey, one of the most beautiful palaces in the entire world. Now, this is where the sultans, the rulers of the Islamic Ottoman Empire that covered Turkey and parts of Europe and Asia and North Africa once lived. And the first thing that you'll notice about this grand palace, fit for any ruler, is that it is full of tiles. Now, these were made in the 16th century, so about 500 years ago. What patterns can you spot in these tiles? What shapes? Well, I can spot squares, circles, leaves, shapes that look a little bit like flowers, and they're all in blues and whites and beautiful turquoise colours. Now, these tiles are called Iznik tiles. They're named after a place in Turkey where they were originally made. Now, the whole palace is full of these incredible tiles. So let's have a little look at a closer example of Iznik tiles and learn a little bit more about them. Now, take a look at this panel, this group of Iznik tiles. How many square tiles can you spot? Remember, a square is a shape that has 4 sides of equal length. Well, there are 16 squares in the centre of the group. And can you spot what is on the tiles? Well, there's a shape, a beautiful wavy shape that is repeated over and over again. And each time it's repeated, it's connected to the ones around it by chains of flowers and leaves. Isn't that beautiful? And then around the outside, there's another repeating pattern. Can you spot the blue border surrounded by red? Well, Iznik tiles are full of these repeating patterns. We sometimes say repeating motifs. And they're colourful shapes, often in blue and white, that remind us of flowers and branches and leaves, and that repeat to create huge panels of patterned tiles. Now, 500 years ago in Turkey, tiles like this were very popular, and the city of Istanbul was the home to craftsmen who made these tiles, and whose tiles were used to fill all the new buildings that were being built in the city itself. Huge, luxurious palaces for the rulers of the empire, new mosques for thousands of people to use for prayer, busy and bustling markets where Turkish apple tea and spices were bought and sold. All these incredible buildings were filled with amazing colourful tiles like this, and you can still see them in those places today. But there is one thing that we haven't seen in our tiles, and that is pictures of people. So why is that? Well, decoration in the Islamic world, it tends to avoid using depictions or pictures of people, because in Islam there is a belief that showing figures can be considered a little bit too close to idolatry or worshipping things that aren't God. So Islamic artists took their inspiration from something other than people around them. They used maths, shapes with different numbers of sides, repeated patterns. These all became the favourite style of decoration. Using colour and repeated shapes could help people to think about God as being never-ending or infinite, just like the repeating patterns of the tiles. So, decorated tiles and patterns could help people to understand something, perhaps, about God without showing real figures. And that's why they were so popular in Islamic decoration. So today we have explored the world of Islamic art and patterns through looking at these amazing tiles. Now, if you've enjoyed this topic, then head to the resource pack to have a go at some activities, including creating your very own colourful pattern for tiles. Now, you can find the resource pack in the link below this YouTube video or by heading to the Museum at Home website. And join me next time as we quest together in search of dragons. So, see you next time for another Museum at Home.